Hello, welcome to the sideboard here at the StarCityGames.com Standard Open in Richmond, brought to you by Ultimate Guard. I'm Nick Miller alongside Ben Friedman. How you doing, sir?
Hey, good to see you, Nick.
Good to have you here. Now, you've been kind of testing this Sultai, Emerge deck with the Team MTG guys.
Yep.
Jim lost his quarterfinals in the RPTQ. You won your quarterfinals in the RPTQ with his deck. And you guys took this deck at the Invitational as well. I know you audibled literally between the end of the Modern and the Standard rounds to play this deck.
Yeah, man, sometimes you just gotta feel something. And the thing that you're hopefully feeling is an Elder Deep Fiend, flashing back Kozilek's Return, reanimating prized amalgams. Just, you get to play so much Magic with this deck. And that's just what we're going back to, just good old-fashioned Magic. And I get to play more of it than most of my opponents.
Right, good old-fashioned Magic that looks a lot like Dredge, which a lot of people would not say looks like Magic.
Yeah.
But you described this deck to me as sort of like the standard Dredge.
Yeah, so this is essentially standard Dredge. Because Prized Amalgam was printed and Golgari Grave Troll has been unbanned for a while, in Modern we have some pretty scary Dredge stuff going on. In Standard we don't have quite that synergistic like turbo Dredge we can be doing, but you still have enablers that allow you to really do some pretty powerful stuff before it would generally be appropriate, and you can actually play a lot of spells for free. Things just stop really looking like a real game of Magic once you set up. And most people just for some reason still aren't aware that this deck is a thing. I mean, there was an article a long time ago, right after the Pro Tour, by a guy named Dan Unwin from Australia, I believe, who took this deck to the Pro Tour. And it kind of fell off the radar. There was, the different T-Merge and Jund Delirium decks. But this deck is just going, like, even harder in the paint, in the graveyard paint, than your T-Merge or your Jund Delirium decks. So there are some really busted sequences you can do with this deck.
Right, you got your enablers, of course, Grapple the Pass and Gather the Pack.
Yep.
Then one Vessel.
Yep.
And then you have your Traverse package as well. So you have 4 copies of Traverse the Open Wall, and your one-ofs is Ishkana and Distorted Mindbender. But then you've got the engine. Of course, Jace here, we'll go over that here in a minute. But the real engine of the deck revolves around Haunted Dead, Prized Amalgam, Elder Deep Fiend, and then of course Kozilek's Return. Take us through the play patterns this deck has.
So let's say you have a pretty average hand. You're going to keep you have a Jace and a Gather the Pack. Pretty good hand. You're going to on turn 2 play your Jace. On turn 3 you're going to Gather the Pack. You maybe hit an Elder Deep Fiend. Cool. You get to put that in your hand. You get to flip your Jace. Your Jace flips. Maybe you also hit a Traverse the Ulvenwald, so your Jace can flash back your Traverse the Ulvenwald. And now now we're ready. Now we've set up. So at this point, assuming that we can get a Haunted Dead in the yard, let's say our Gather also hit a Haunted Dead in the graveyard, or we could Jace loot our Haunted Dead into the yard. At this point, come turn 5, some really interesting things start to happen. So let's say that we have 5 mana at our disposal, a Kozilek's Return in the graveyard, a Haunted Dead in the graveyard, an Elder Deep Fiend in our hand, and let's just make it 2 Prized Amalgams in our hand. Just because in Magical Christmas Land we have all of these cards at our disposal.
While you're at it.
Yeah, so we've got these 5 cards. They're all staring at each other and staring at our opponent, and we decide during our opponent's 5th turn upkeep, we don't want them to get to play any more Magic at all. So that's the end of the game, and here's how it works. We're gonna pay 2 mana, leaving 3 mana floating, to discard our 2 Prized Amalgams. We'll say amalgams for now. To get our to get our Haunted Dead back, triggering our Haunted Dead, and now with the trigger on the stack, so we're not gonna have our Spirit yet. We're gonna pay another 3 mana and emerge with Elder Deep Fiend. Now, I don't know, Octopus, Eldrazi, it's got a sideways mouth. I don't understand exactly what's going on, but it's Elder Deep fried. It certainly fries the opponent's board when we flash back Kozilek's Return. So we're going to sacrifice our Haunted Dead, flash back Kozilek's Return. All right, see you later, Reflector Mage, and see you later, Spell Queller, and see you later, dummy Duskwatch Recruiter, or whatever Sylvan Advocate. Yeah, all you guys, you can clear out. And those lands, they get tapped because of Elder Deep Fiend, and then we'll resolve our trigger. We'll get our 1/1 Spirit, because you got to get the value. So now we have a 5/6 and a 1/1 Spirit, and our opponent has no board, and they are tapped out. We'll let them go to their draw step. We want them to have that opportunity.
See what they get.
And they can't cast anything because they've been tapped out in their upkeep. And then when they say, all right, man, your turn, I say, oh, wow, sweet, thank you. I'll just get these 2 prized amalgams back, and now we'll untap and attack for...
Suddenly 11.
Yeah, that's
plus
11 plus a spirit is 12. And if we have a Jace, we can flash back a Traverse, and that Traverse will get us another Elder Deep Fiend, at which point the handshake is usually imminent.
Right.
But yeah.
You have demonstrated a loop.
I have demonstrated quad time walk and attack you for 11 and then 16 and then you're dead.
Sure.
So,
all right,
yeah.
so that's basically what the deck's doing. You've got all the value of these other graveyard decks, which also have 2 Languish to go along with your Kozilek's Return, so you're keeping track of all the little guys. Also notable, this main deck has no way to actually cast Kozilek's Return, strictly there for the flashback of the Elder Deep Fiend.
Wait.
And the
wait, it does it? All right, I need to call a judge. All right, hold on. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, you don't need to ever cast the Kozilek's Return.
Before, yes. All right,
yeah, it's awesome. But you get to sideboard a mountain, but yeah, you don't actually ever cast it pre-board.
All right, so that's what the decks are doing. The sideboard, you got a little bit kind of everything here. You got discard package return, pick the brain, and transgress the mind. You've got some infinite obliteration and a card that kind of protects yourself from an infinite obliteration. The Scab there. That card, I know Jim was playing it main deck in his build and the MGG guys are, but you kind of have it in your sideboard.
Yeah, I mean, so sometimes the Haunted Dead, they unionize and they pick it and they don't want to work for you anymore and they go off in an infinite obliteration. And so sometimes if your workers are unionized, you need a Scab. And they come in and work for you even when the rest of your zombies are off duty. Infinite Obliteration is for the mirror match. Usually you'll name Elder Deep Fiend. That's like the power card. Yeah, you get a discard package in Pick the Brain and Transgress the Mind against control decks, Pulse of Murasa against Blue-Red Burn, Ultimate Price and To the Slaughter. Ultimate Price is for humans, To the Slaughter is for Gideon decks. And then a Den Protector for value,
sure.
A Nissa Vastwood Seer for value, and a Mountain in case you're playing against the deck that is actually vulnerable to the front side of Kozilek's Return, and so it has been known to come up, although it's very infrequent.
Right. Just kind of the Miser's Mountain in case you really need to cast the Kozilek's Return.
Yeah, I mean, you're pretty solid to find it. You have 4 Traverse, which can find it. You have 4 Evolving Wilds, which can find it. So you have 9 sources, including this. And you have Grapples or Vessels to try and dig for the appropriate
sure.
pieces. And you have Jace, like if you accidentally mill your Traverse with Gather, you can flash it back to get your Mountain to cast the front side of your Kozilek's Return. That kind of exemplifies the power of the deck. Your graveyard is your hand due to Jace, and the fact that Jace flips on turn 3 with consistency in this deck. So it doesn't actually matter what the cards are in your hand. You don't have to be living on the edge like, oh, I need to top deck this. Certainly it's nice to top deck Traverses and whatnot, but basically you have this weird mana-fixing Demonic Tutor card in your deck. Mm-hmm. You have just this free sweeper in your deck. You have Time Walk. You can board in you keep Languish in there because I found the only way I was losing was if I wasn't hitting my Kozilek's Return. So I would have Languish and you can just flash it back with Jace if you mill it. It's not
sure.
at all a problem. And that's really, really consistent sweepers against the aggro decks. So super fun deck.
Right, well, we've seen a ton of results from the deck. It kind of flew under the radar at the Invitational, but since then you guys have been doing work with it. You're off to a great start. I know some of the other guys are off to a great start with it. Last question. No Emrakul in this deck.
Yeah, so that's something that really takes people by surprise. Everyone says, oh yeah, you're a Delirium deck, you should have Emrakul. And the answer is, well, actually not really. And the problem is that you don't generally end the game with very many lands in play. Usually 6 or 7 is the maximum, and you, depending on the scenario, sure. Of course, your mileage may vary, but frequently, especially in pre-board games, you end the game with six lands in play, maybe 5 or 6 lands in play, and you're just traversing for your Elder Deep Fiend, you're paying 2 mana for Haunted Dead, pitching the excess lands that you've drawn, and then using Elder Deep Fiend. So you never actually need more than 5 or 6 lands to execute all of that stuff. So the 7th, 8th, 9th lands that would enable you to cast Emrakul, Well, that's just fodder for your Haunted deck.
Sure.
So you really, really have to manage every resource here. With a traditional mid-range deck, it's just, draw land, let's play it in case we, can read the bones and just cast all our spells. Well, this deck, your spells don't cost any mana, but they do cost cards.
All right, well, Emrakul's overkill. You don't need it. Elder Deep Fiend's where it's at.
Yeah,
You
best
guys
Eldrazi.
have done a great job with this deck. It looks awesome. Thanks for joining me here in the sideboard.
My pleasure, Nick.
Stay tuned to StarCityGames.com all weekend long for the action here in Richmond.